country starts, and I mean it's just a thought, but if this country starts to humble them,
asking to humble America. Oh, that's very interesting.
Hey guys, good morning. This is Dan with Legislature Support. In this video today, I'm going to talk about the Ethereum merge. The reason why I chose this topic is because the merge is finally coming. So you guys have a lot of questions on social media about the merge and how that's going to impact Ledger. So I thought I would record this video and answer those most common questions. So because we're getting a lot of questions from you guys about the merge, we decided at Support to write a Ethereum merge FAQ, which you can find on the Help Center on the Ledger website. Now, in this video, I'm going to cover the TLDR, and then I'll go into each specific questions. So the TLDR is basically the merge will not have a noticeable impact on how you use your Ledger Ethereum account in Ledger Live. You basically will not see a noticeable difference between before the merge and after the merge. Also, it's completely safe to keep your ETH, NFTs, and ERC20 tokens in your Ledger Ethereum accounts during and after the merge. So there is basically nothing you have to do. Just keep your assets in your current account. The merge will happen when it happens, and that's it. Nothing will dramatically change. What we would recommend though is the merge might be a little messy when it happens. So
can you imagine how messy it's going to be?
I would personally recommend not to do high value transfers of ETH or ERC20 tokens or NFT transfers, just in case there is a little bit of chaos in the chain. You never know. So during the time of the merge, I would say just avoid those high value transactions. The final point, and this one is the most important, I think, important events like the merge will attract a lot of scammers. So people will try to benefit from the confusion to try to gain access to 24-word recovery phrase.
It's going to be intensely intense.
Just to be super clear, you don't need your 24-word recovery phrase to do anything related with the merge. We won't ask you for it. Anyone asking you for it should be considered a scammer. So I think you can expect fake emails from scammers asking you to sync your accounts or upgrade your accounts for the merge or transfer your balance to a merge compatible balance or Ethereum accounts, things like that. This is all scams. Basically, the only thing you have to do is nothing. Just keep your assets in the same Ethereum account and you'll be perfectly okay. But again, those big events, they attract a lot of scams and scammers, so just be careful. All right, don't share your 24-word recovery phrase with anyone, including Ledger. Let's go deeper into each individual question. The first one being, what is the merge exactly? So the merge at a very high level is about a change on how new blocks are produced and ordered within the Ethereum blockchain. So the current system is proof of work. After the merge, we are going to retire this system and activate or connect proof of stake. So the merge is basically this change from proof of work to proof of stake. The merge doesn't affect smart contracts directly. It doesn't affect your balances. It's not an airdrop or anything like that. It's just a change of the consensus mechanism at the core of the Ethereum protocol. Another question that we get is, when will the merge happen? And the answer is, currently the estimated date for the merge is September 15th, 2022. Now this date might change because it doesn't depend on a block number or like a calendar date. It actually depends on the total difficulty that's gone into the proof of work chain. Once we've got enough difficulty that's been, or hash rate that's been going into the chain, then proof of work is gonna be turned off and proof of stake will be activated. So yeah, you can use this website here called bordel.wtf, which is an interesting name, to track.
Really? Amazing. So interesting.
When the merge is going to happen. Next question is it safe to keep my Ethereum assets inside of my Ledger Ethereum account before, during, and after the merge? The answer is yes, it's completely safe and you won't have to do anything. Just leave your assets there before, during, and after the merge. The merge will happen and this will have absolutely zero effect on your assets. So you don't need to update or sync or transfer or do anything with your account. Just leave everything there and don't touch anything. Another question we get is, will I get an ETH2 coin airdrop during or after the merge? The answer is absolutely not. Your ETH balance and ERC20 tokens and NFTs will be exactly the same before, during, and after the merge. There's not going to be
We're
an airdrop.
making
This is
so
not how
many
the merge
problems
works.
together.
Super careful,
Web3.
scammers, that might
And
try to
when
you.
we will
Otherwise,
stop
try to get access to
making
24
all
recovery
those
phrase, there is not going to be
troubles,
an airdrop. Another
when
question
we
get,
will drop
will
from
merge
the
make Ethereum
amount
cheaper
of
to use?
airdrops,
And the answer is unfortunately
when
it
we
will not.
will
The merge
stop
doesn't
hanging
affect
out
the gas price issue.
online.
If anything, it might make Ethereum even more popular and make the gas price worse. This is just speculation on my part, but definitely the merge is not going to make Ethereum cheaper. It's not designed for that. Another connected question we get is, will the merge make Ethereum faster? The answer is not really. So it is true that block time is going to go from the current 13 seconds on average under the proof of work system to a very regular 12-second per block to the merge. So there might be a slight increase in speed, but really in your everyday use, you shouldn't see any noticeable difference. So will the merge make Ethereum faster to use? Not really. Another question we get is, will you guys continue supporting the legacy proof of work Ethereum chain after the merge? The answer is, it's complicated. Right now, after the merge, if you open Ledger Live, all you'll see is your Ethereum accounts on the proof of stake chain. We are not planning continue supporting the proof of work chain immediately after the merge. The reason why is because we put security first, and it's not guaranteed that the proof of work chain will be safe to use right after the merge. Two reasons for that. First of all, they are risk of replay attacks, and second of all, it's because if the proof of work chain doesn't attract sufficient hash power, then it might be actually unsafe to use that chain. And at Ledger, we put security first, so we don't want to give users access to an account that might harm their funds and put them in a dangerous situation. So that's the reason why we will not continue supporting the proof of work chain after the merge. Now, we'll continue monitoring the situation. If the proof of work chain in the future becomes safe to use, has enough hash rate and community, then we'll think about putting it back into Ledger Live. But again, immediately after the merge, when you open Ledger Live, what you'll see is your Ethereum accounts on the proof of stake chain, not on the proof of work chain. Next question we're getting, will Ethereum experience downtime during the merge? The answer is no. Ethereum will not stop during the merge. This is one of the reasons why the merge is and has been so difficult to implement. It's because the core developers didn't want the Ethereum network to stop, do the merge, and turn back on. They wanted the service to be continuous throughout the merge. So Ethereum will keep running as normal during the merge. However, again, just in case the merge proves a little messy, I would suggest not to do any high value transactions during the merge, just in case you get in situations where some blocks are getting reorganized or there is a little bit of chaos around the merge.
It's more complex
so
than
I would
cryptography.
wait until the dust settle here and then resume my transactions as normal.
Dust settles.
Next question we're getting,
Well,
will I need to update or upgrade or migrate my Ethereum funds before, during, or after the merge? The answer is absolutely not. You don't need to move your assets, and you certainly don't need to use your 24-word recovery phrase to do anything related to the merge. Again, be super careful, guys. I think a lot of scammers will try to take advantage of the confusion to try to trick people into revealing their 24 word phrase. You don't need to
Do you think
move
enough
your
people
assets
will
or
watch
to use
this?
your 24 word recovery phrase with anything
337 Ledger. Oh, that's 51k followers. I don't know.
related to the merge. Now, on our side, however, two things might happen during the merge or before the merge. First of all, it's possible that you will need to update the Ethereum app onto your Ledger device. So you do this by going into the manager, then you type Ethereum, and then you've got an upgrade that's here. This is, as you know, very different from moving your funds, right? This is just updating the Ethereum app on the Ledger device. It's also possible that we will ask you guys to update Ledger Live, and if we do, we'll provide safe links to do it. That will be via the normal link on the website. But again, the assets themselves do not
Wow, I
need to
get
be moved
very,
out of
very
the device.
intimidated by
And
this
again,
amount
you don't
already.
need to use your 24 word recovery phrase with anything related to the merge. Next question, hey, I have 32 ETH in my Ledger account. Will I be able to solo stake my ETH through Ledger Live right after the merge? And the answer is no, you won't be able to do it via Ledger Live immediately after the merge. That might be a feature that we support in the future, but this won't be available right after the merge. Now, if you want to use your ETH and do what we call solo staking, it is possible, and that's basically the main advantage of the merge is now you can solo stake instead of going through something like Lido, for example. If you're interested in solo staking your ETH, then you'll have to spin up a validator yourself. There is a very, very good guide and tutorial that's available on the ethereum.org website, and you can see it here on my screen. You can follow those instructions. It's a bit technical, but then you'll be able to use your ETH to solo stake. Another question we get,
Yo, dear City DAO, PDF
will I
this.
be able to unstake my ETH from the Beacon chain after the merge? The answer is unfortunately no, you won't be able to unstake immediately after the merge. The reason why is because the Ethereum core developers have indicated that it will take one more upgrade after the merge to implement unstaking, and this new upgrades might take like another year after the merge to be implemented in the protocol. So yeah, you won't be able to unstake immediately after the merge, unfortunately. Next question, I have Lido STETH inside my Ledger Ethereum accounts. What happens to the STETH after the merge? The answer is nothing happens to your STETH. It will still be in your Ethereum accounts. It will continue accrue daily rewards just as before. And you will also be able to use the Lido app just as before by going to the Discover section in Ledger Live. You can click Lido, and then you can stake ETH for STETH just as before the merge. The merge will have absolutely no effect on Lido. All right, guys, and I think that's it. So what if you have other questions or any doubts, or you just want to talk to us and ask us questions directly? Then there's many ways you can do this. The first way you can reach out to us is directly via the Ledger website, the support section to be exact. On the support page, you can click the help button here and start a live conversation with one of our agents, or you can also submit a ticket. You can also reach out to us on Twitter. We are at ledger_support. That's ledger_support. Be very careful on Twitter because there are a lot of scammers and fake Ledger accounts. Ours
Cameras
is
are
again
everywhere.
ledger_support, and it has a little check mark. In terms of additional content that you can check out to learn more about the merge, I would say we have the Ethereum merge FAQ on our support page. And you can also check out the merge article on ethereum.org. It's excellent, excellent documentation. I hope that was useful.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Should we explain? So, do you know have been business partners for many years, and also very good, dare I say, best friends for a long time as well. And a lot of people are like, wow, you guys really, really work well together. How has that happened? Through like failures and wins. Like it's not just been just fun stuff. And we attribute the success of our relationship to what we call the feelings check-in, which is essentially anytime any sort of feeling comes up, good, bad, happy, sad, we talk about it with each other.
I'm having a feeling right now.
What's the feeling?
I'm feeling like emotional. That was so kind.
Oh, wow.
I feel touched.
Wow, that's a good.
I'm also like really PMSing, like in a major, like more so than I've ever PMSed before in my life. So I think just emotions are very
high.
Very high.
Feelings are high. High feeling moment. Okay, so we've had all these conversations with all these different people to try to figure out the legal structure of, not even the legal structure, just like the structure, the equity, the formation of the DAO. And that has been so challenging and really stressful, honestly, because it's felt like we have all these people who are wonderful and working hard and trying to understand what their role in a more tangible way, and looking to us to give them those answers, and us truly not knowing what the best path is, and that feeling really stressful. On the other side of it, what I have also felt is it's been really hard to realize how, with a DAO, instead of us owning it and we are giving out 2, 5, 25, whatever percentages to all these different stakeholders, it's flipped. And when you summon a DAO or start a DAO, you are basically saying all of this is owned by the community of people participating in the DAO first. And then you get to decide. The founders, the contributors, the core team get parts of that, get ownership and delved out ownership. And that was the most surprising thing for me after starting a DAO. After being 6 months into a DAO, I had a light bulb moment of like, oh, I don't get a lot of this at the end of it. And when you are working as hard as we're working, and you're coming from a Web 2 world, it is really hard to reconcile that. And to, like, there's some feelings that come up around how much of this is being distributed to the community. And
It depends on the community, my loves. The community is a good community, and what kind of feelings you're gonna get, only the good ones. Wow.
Welcome to Senate Corporations. Our good Chairman Driscoll will be here shortly. He is in another meeting this morning, so I'll go ahead and get us started.
Wow,
Roll
she's
call.
so separated.
Senator Boner? Here. Senator Case? Senator Senator Nethercott?
Here.
Senator Scott?
That exist out there in the blockchain world where someone has started an entity or some sort of a smart contract and fails to maintain it. We don't want to give those types of entities or those types of projects limited liability status. So we're setting the bar high here, that these have to be maintained projects to qualify for this status. 1731-106 gets into the specifications of the articles itself. So obviously the articles have to include a statement about being a DAO. The articles have to include the publicly available identifier of any smart contract being used to manage or facilitate the DAO. Again, getting back to that notice conversation, making sure that people are aware of what the protocol is that's operating this entity. Subsection C, except as otherwise provided, the articles shall govern all of the followings. Relations among the members, again, consistent with the underlying LLC Act. The rights and duties of a person in their capacity as a member. The activities of the DAO and the conduct of those activities. The means and conditions for amending the operating agreement. the rights and voting rights of members, transferability of membership interests, withdrawal of membership and distributions to members, amendment to the articles, procedures for amending, and then any other aspects. We kind of have a catch-all in there. I will tell you that, and we don't have the ability, I think, or the time to do this today, but it would be fascinating for you all to see how one of these entities operates. I've had the privilege with Mr. Wright of a DAO that he's a member of going to the dashboard, for that decentralized autonomous organization and seeing how the members interact and how a member can essentially put into this protocol a call for a vote on something, or a proposal for an investment, or a proposal for a change to the operating agreement, and how the smart contracts initiate the voting procedure for the entity and automatically notify members. It's really quite striking. And again, the lawyer brain that I have just flips on when you see this operate. In some ways, it's kind of the way that notice an entity should work. It's pretty impressive. Moving on to 1731-107, amendment or restatement of articles. We require that the articles of organization for a DAO shall be amended when there's a change in the name of the DAO, if there turns out to be a false or erroneous statement in the original articles, or if the DAO's smart contracts have been updated or changed. Again, notice we want people to be aware of what they're involved with.
Can you imagine always updating?
1731-108, operating agreement. Again, to the extent the articles or smart contracts do not otherwise provide, the operation of the decentralized autonomous organization may be supplemented by an operating agreement. Again, I would call your attention to the fact this is consistent with the underlying LLC Act. That is, we have default rules for the entity unless the entity modifies those default rules through an operating agreement. No different here. It's just that operating agreement might exist solely in code. 1731-109, the management section. So management of a DAO shall be vested in its members, if it's member managed, or the smart contract if it's algorithmically managed, unless it's otherwise provided. So again, we don't really leave an avenue for these to be manager managed. They're not designed to be. If an entity has some alternative technology that they want to use to be a manager managed, they can just elect to be a traditional LLC. 1731-110, standards of conduct for the members. Again, unless otherwise provided for, we specify that no member of a DAO shall have a fiduciary obligation to the other members. They still have the covenant of good faith and fair dealing. Again, this is pretty consistent, the theme that we see in corporate law, and that is just by virtue of being a co-investor or a co-member of an LLC doesn't necessarily invoke a fiduciary obligation. You still have good faith obligations and contractual obligations, but we want to be careful about specifying that. 1731-111, membership interests for these DAOs and voting. Again, we set forth that unless it's otherwise provided for in the articles, the smart contract, or the operating agreement, that membership interest shall be calculated just based on the digital assets contributed to the organization divided by the total amount of assets. So it's a pro rata share, essentially. No different, again, than the default rules of the underlying LLC. In this context, we're just anticipating that we're going to be dealing with digital assets. And then the second provision there, if members do not contribute digital assets as a prerequisite to becoming a member, then the default rule is that each member will possess one membership interest and be entitled to one vote. So again, something that can easily be modified by smart contract or operating agreement, but we set the default rule. And then we do the same with a quorum, that the quorum shall not be less than a majority. 1731-112, the rights of the members, managers, and disassociated members. Members shall have no right under this act to separately inspect or copy records. So this is a little bit different than the traditional LLC Act. The reason that this is a little bit different is, again, because the governing critical documents of the entity are designed to live in a smart contract protocol that's accessible by the members. So we don't have a separate obligation on the entity or on a particular individual within the entity that if they receive a records request, they have to respond. We're making it all publicly available in a decentralized fashion. 1731-113, A member may only withdraw from a DAO in accordance with the terms set forth therein. If no terms and conditions for withdrawal are set forth, then a member may withdraw only via a vote by the majority of the members. Again, we're setting the default rules. These can be modified via the smart contract or operating agreement, but we're establishing the default. Subsection B, a member of a decentralized autonomous organization may not have the organization dissolved for failure to return the member's contribution to capital. Again, that would have to be, and the reason for this type of provision is that will be governed by the operating agreement or smart contract. It might even be set forth in the articles. What we don't want to do is create a legal mess by anytime somebody tries to withdraw or dissociate from one of these, it invokes some automatic right.
Gaming completely not interests me.
Subsection C, unless the organization's articles or smart contracts, operating agreements provide otherwise, a withdrawn member can forfeit all of their membership interests in the DAO, including governance or economic rights. This, in my mind, is kind of almost an abandonment provision, that if you have people leaving, we want them to understand that, hey, if you're walking away from this completely, you could potentially lose your interest. It's your obligation to stay involved and maintain the membership interest participation. 1731-114 dissolution. Let me back up here. A DAO organized under this chapter shall be dissolved upon the occurrence of the following events. So if there's a fixed duration and that duration expires, obviously they would be dissolved by a vote of the majority of the members would be dissolved, again, consistent with what we already have in the underlying LLC Act. At the time or upon the occurrence of events specified in any smart contract, the articles or operating agreement. As an example, a lot of these entities now are existing for investment purposes. So it may be in the smart contract that the purpose of the entity is to make an investment into Ethereum, right? And we're going to hold that for 6 months and then withdraw, return members' capital, and dissolve. Something to that effect. We want that ability to be able to execute automatically. And then by order, I'm sorry, I skipped one, maybe the most important one. The DAO Autonomous Organization has failed to approve any proposals or take any action for a period of 1 year or more.
1 year.
So the purpose of this provision is, again, we don't want these
give us
entities
1
to be
year.
dormant. So if someone fails to manage the entity, if someone fails to keep the smart contracts up and operating and it sits dormant for a year, then it triggers dissolution. So again, this is a protection for those members, the people that are participating, that they would have a way to get out. And then lastly, by order of the Secretary of State, if it's deemed to no longer have a lawful purpose. Skipping down to the last provision, 1731-115, simply states that the articles, the operating agreement, are effective as statements of authority, where the underlying articles and operating agreement are in conflict. The articles shall preempt any conflicting provisions. And then lastly, where the underlying articles and smart contracts are in conflict, the smart contracts shall actually govern. The reason for that is, in this case, where you might only have articles and an operating agreement as the 2 underlying or primary governing documents for an entity, we now are introducing a third, and that is the smart contract protocol. So we have to create a hierarchy there. These entities are designed to be primarily conducted through the smart contract protocol. So we have to give them, I guess, preeminence in that order.
Mr. Kaufman, the room is riveted. We appreciate you affording us the opportunity to get comfortable and settle in the morning. Mr. Kaufman, thank you for that explanation of the bill. Mr. Wright, we're headed your way here in just a minute. The good chairman is also back, but I have a question for you. And these are hypotheticals for both you and Mr. Wright. Under what circumstances do you ever see a derivative action being presented by one of the shareholders? Because it's hard for me to hypothesize or come up with a scenario with the smart contract construct of a DAO for what that would look like. So just wondered if in all of your brainstorming, if you came up with an idea
feel you,
what
my
that
love.
would look like.
So
I feel
Mr.
you.
Chairman,
I
and,
feel you. I feel. She's like, what is going on? What are you talking about?
Way in here, but understand I'm taking a legal position on something that has never been obviously litigated or considered by a court anywhere in this country. or world,
A
I'm
world.
not sure that a derivative action could actually be maintained against one of these entities. And the reason is that a derivative action is based on a breach of those in control of the entity violating their fiduciary obligation.
Fiduciary.
That dynamic doesn't exist in one of these entities. So if there's a breakdown of the smart contract, I suppose there could be direct actions by one member against another if there was some perceived, failure in executing the code or drafting the code, but I'm not sure a
Or
derivative
somebody's
action
like
would be possible.
ignoring someone for an extended
quote,
period
sorry.
of time who is supposed to be a co-founder.
Senator Case.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'd like to back up a little bit to the membership and membership withdrawal. And that's fascinating to me as how you could become a member.
Look at
and
this
how you
room set up.
unbecome a member and what that means. I mean, I know what it means in terms of other corporations and things, but also the fact that if there's not an agreement about how that's done, you have to have the permission of everyone to withdraw. And I can see a potential conflict there. But I'm not sure. I'd like to maybe just talk about that a little bit more.
Blood in, blood out, Mr. Kaufman, would you like to opine?
So,
She's
Madam
doing
Chair,
well.
and Senator, great question. I would just draw the distinction again for everyone's benefit to the difference between withdrawal and dissociation.
Mhm.
So a member at any time can say, I'm tired of this, I don't like what's happening. I
Very
wanna
spiritual
dissociate, which
language.
means I'm gonna express my withdrawal. It may not be a legal withdrawal, right, or an economic withdrawal of the capital interests, but you can dissociate. We do have, again, default rules set forth in here of what happens if someone dissociates, because what we don't want is for that to result in abandonment of an autonomous organization. Someone has to be responsible for ultimately executing. So the default rule is if you dissociate, you risk, it's not conclusive, but you risk walking away from those interests. Different than letting or notifying the other members of the entity know that you want to withdraw. Of course, we would anticipate that normally that would be covered in the articles of the operating agreement. There would be some procedure for that. All we specify here is that, okay, if you want to withdraw, you at least need some threshold approval by the organization. If you don't have that, you revert to be a dissociated member. It's really, Mr. Chairman, it's really not that different from the underlying LLC Act rules in that respect.
Senator Scott. You ready?
Madam Chairman, I have so many questions, I don't know where to start. Madam Chairman, there's a provision in here on the contribution, which, as I remember the LLC, we still have the default, I believe, that unless they specify otherwise, each member is equal in terms of their ownership of the thing. And this seems like a exception to that. But there's a provision in there that you've got, unless you're making a digital contribution, then you get some ownership in proportion to the digital contribution.
Page 12, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you. How do you measure the digital contribution so that you know how much, it's clear who's got how much of an interest?
Mr. Kaufman?
Madam Chair, and I would invite, if possible, Mr. Wright to respond to this as well.
Mr. Wright, we need some backup. If you would introduce yourself to the committee. And if you heard the question, we're on page 12 of the bill. And can you answer the question associated with how the smart contract maintains or values proportional or any type of contribution?
Thank you so much, Committee Secretary Nethercott. Thank you so much for the
Time.
opportunity to testify and speak today. As noted before, my name is Aaron Wright. I'm a professor at Cardozo Law School in New York. My research focuses exclusively on blockchain technology. As part of that research, I co-authored a book that Harvard University Press published on blockchain law and policy several years back.
Oh,
To answer
that's
kind of the more
amazing.
narrow question that was just presented, which is a really fascinating question and a good question as well. The underlying smart contracts keep track of all the ownership interests. So if you contribute, let's say, some amount of a digital asset, your units, your shares, or however else it's kind of programmed in the underlying smart contracts will keep track of it. So you don't have to worry about that as much. And beyond keeping track of it, at least today, everybody else can see what you've contributed, what your interest and ownership is, and all of that kind of cap table management just comes out of the box. It goes back to what Mr. Kaufman said before. In many ways, all this information is made public and transparent on open blockchains. It's visible by other members. It's also visible by the public, and that enables a higher degree of transparency. It makes sure that everybody's put on notice. It makes sure that there's less information asymmetries, which should ideally narrow the opportunities for fraud or some other bad activity. And at the same time, you can continue to operate these organizations potentially more efficiently. So I hope that answered the question. Thank you.
Senator Scott, follow-up.
Oh, well, suppose we've got one of these things and I contribute something that's a whole set of code for, say we're in the business of selling securities, and I contribute some kind of
Yeah.
code that
Некоторые
does
проекты
some of
просто,
that,
they're just
and
like,
Senator Office
so what?
contributes a different kind.
What are you adding here?
And
Nothing. You're just
They may do
reiterating.
different things, and he says, my contribution wasn't worth half of what his was worth. How do you decide who gets how much, a percentage of the organization?
Mr. Wright?
Yeah, I think these are great questions, and I don't know if there's all the answers to it, but if it's a digital asset, and let's say Mr. Kaufman contributed 1,000 units of one digital asset, and you contributed 2,000 units of another digital asset, there would be a record of that. Whether that solves the valuation questions is a separate issue, but at least you know what the contributions were. You'd be able to see that, and other members or participants in that organization would be able to see that as well. My sense is, and this goes back to some previous comments, this will mostly involve digital assets, at least in the short term, because it's easier to understand pricing. It's easier to keep track of digital assets in a smart contract-based system. And over the longer term, some of the questions that you raised and the challenges and complications likely will begin to be addressed. And they could be addressed in an operating agreement. They could be addressed in
In 2
articles, at least as
minutes.
contemplated in the
We need
proposed
to
bill.
go
So
to
there's a lot of
close.
flexibility to make sure that people do it right, while at the same time, making sure that they can order their affairs in the way that they
How do we
see
categorize
fit,
Vitalik's
and
stuff?
in a way that I think can push forward the way organizations are operate.
Thank you, Senator Scott.
Madam Chairman, I'm
What is
starting to see
Metaslavic
fundamental
language?
difficulty here because you're going to have ownership interests that are determined in part by your digital
Oh, that's good.
contribution. And I can't see any clear rule for how you value
That was a
differing
good one, huh?
digital contributions. And I think that leaves the ownership and the voting rights unclear. And I would think that could be a fatal flaw in this. If you get down the road and you've got something of real value here, something worth fighting about, and you're not sure exactly who owns how much of it. You may be sure who contributed how much, but you don't have a common means of valuing it. How in the heck do you deal with the complications that will come up in the business world?
Senator Scott, we call that lawyers, but I will refer to Mr. Kaufman, who is anxious to answer this question.
She's good. I
Madam Chair,
like
thank you.
her a
And
lot.
Senator, so as an
Wyoming
example,
is
Senator,
cool.
I don't think that that's going to be as big of an issue as you might expect. So, and Professor Wright, please weigh in if I take this off track, but
Good times. I'm
most
in a
of
kind
these
of like,
entities would be designed to operate on a particular
how do we
blockchain,
call
for
it?
example. So let's use Ethereum, one of the largest blockchains in the world, as an example.
Goes
If
back
everyone
to,
was contributing Ethereum, the native token of Ethereum, that's incredibly easy to evaluate. If the smart contract enabled that protocol to take contributions of another Ethereum-like token that was enabled on the Ethereum blockchain, that's incredibly easy to value in real time. So I think the circumstance that you're anticipating will largely be precluded by the fact that contributions are going to have to be blockchain specific. And as a result of them being blockchain specific for a particular smart contract and a particular entity, that problem is very easily solvable.
I misunderstood. Maybe-
Okay, we're
maybe I
going
may
on.
have Totally misunderstood this thing. I thought that some of the contributions were gonna be things like code or things like that. They're not your,
I'm so excited to watch this with you further, but we gotta take a break.